We have a Bryan Kohberger update. Larry Nassar nearly gets killed. The soccer coach left his phone at a restaurant. Guess what they saw on that phone? We have an example of some terrible parents that should probably rot in a cell for the better part of their life. Another example of some dating malpractice, and then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below, and remember to hit that little bell so that you receive updates as it relates to new content. And remember, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Yes, I know, it is July 10th. It has been a busy first half of the year. As we move into the second half of the year, well, things just got a little less busy for me. I was supposed to start a 3-week trial tomorrow that got continued at the last moment. So, guess what? I'm back because, well, really, I just haven't had a whole lot of time to do Crime Talk, but we're back at it. So, let's go ahead and open the record and start the docket for July 10th, 2023. First, Bryan Kohberger. All right, as everyone should know by now, or a lot of people know, that the Latah County Prosecutor's Office gave notice back in June that they are going to seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger because they said that the killings were especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. Kind of stuff that, death penalty statutes are made of. That's the kind of language that they have to put in there. Well, the prosecutors stand by their pursuit of the death penalty, stating that it is appropriate because there are obviously multiple victims. The defendant exhibited utter disregard for life, and that they alleged Mr. Kohberger acted with reckless indifference to human life, and that he represents a threat to society in the future if he were ever released. And, the trial is scheduled to begin in October and will last an estimated 6 weeks. We all know that's not going to happen given the death penalty, but that's just the way it is. Now, prosecutors also provided notice saying that, hey, we're open to mitigation, which is anything that would be sympathetic towards the prosecutors so that they could say, hey, maybe this is something that we should consider, and a jury wouldn't give him the death penalty if they knew about this. So that's what we call mitigation, okay? And so the DA says we are open to that. Now, understand, Bryan Kohberger is entitled to the presumption of innocence. Although he's been charged, we're not saying that he's guilty of anything, but he has been accused of obviously killing 4 people. And more specifically, those 4 people are Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Zaina Kernobel, and Ethan Chapin. Now, the prosecutors have met with the victims' families to discuss the death penalty with Kernobel's mother, Kara Northington, and she favors life in prison for Mr. Kohberger if he's convicted. Her father, however, Jeff, is in favor of the death penalty for Mr. Kohberger. The Goncalves and the Mogens are also in favor of the death penalty, and the Chapins have not made their position public just yet. Why go death? Well, the obvious reason is 4 young people brutally had their lives taken. Let's face it, in Idaho, like in most states, you can get up to the ultimate sentence of life in prison without parole for 1 murder. So that becomes the great dilemma. What do you do with somebody that commits, well, not 1, not 2, but 3, 4 murders? What, do they get a volume discount for crime? Then always it is a tool for negotiation for the prosecutors. If someone thinks that they are going to be subject to the death penalty, they may say, hey, I really don't want to die. Maybe if I offer them life without parole with a guilty plea, would they take death off the table? It is a tool for negotiations that the prosecutors have. Now, on the other side, people say, well, the death penalty is really expensive. Proponents of it say, who cares? It is the cost of doing business. It is overhead what a society has to have a good order and discipline, so to speak, in the community. You have to have jail. It's like police. It's a cost of doing business. And whether Bryan Kohberger is sitting in prison for the rest of his life or sitting in prison for the rest of his life where they're trying to kill him, it really doesn't matter. They're going to have to pay the bill, whether he's there fighting the death penalty case or not, assuming he's convicted, obviously. Now, is there any deterrence to the death penalty? Well, some people would say no. In the heat of the moment, are you thinking about, oh, I better not do this because I could get the death penalty? Probably not. It's not about deterrence. It's really about punishment, retribution. That's really what it is. It is the state saying we are going to kill you because you can't behave like a civilized human being in our society. So let me know what you think. I mean, it's the type of situation as it relates to Bryan Kohberger is you have killed 4 people, accused. Let me clarify that. You have been accused of killing 4 people. And if you are convicted of that, do you deserve to die? Some people say yes. Some people say no. You should never kill anybody. Let me know. It is a hot topic that people just, well, they want to talk about it. And then if he is convicted, and then you have lethal injection or a firing squad. Firing squad was added. Why? Because there's a shortage of all of the lethal injection drugs that they need to effectuate that form of the punishment. Then on the other hand, you got guys, remember like Tim McVeigh? Remember the Oklahoma City bomber? That once he was sentenced to death by Judge Maitch, even though he had some legitimate post-conviction motions because the FBI found boxes and boxes of discovery in a closet somewhere that hadn't been turned over to the defense. What did he do? He said, no, let's do this. So you have to admire a guy that could have spent the next 40 years alive in prison. And he was like, no, let's just go get this over with. Makes you got a lot of areas to think about. Let me know what you think. Next on the docket. Yes, old Larry Nassar. Remember the former U.S. gymnastic doctor, Larry Nassar? Yeah, well, apparently he's lucky to be alive because he was stabbed multiple times by another inmate during an assault in a federal prison. Now, Mr. Nassar, Dr. Nassar, was stabbed twice in the neck and twice in the back and 6 times in the chest down at the penitentiary where he is being housed at the Coleman Penitentiary in Florida. He apparently has a collapsed lung, and the attack took place about 2:35 p.m. on Sunday, but he is apparently in stable condition in the hospital. Now, as you may recall, Dr. Nassar was convicted in 2018 for sexually assaulting members of various U.S. teams, including the Olympic gold medalists Simone Biles, Ali Raisman, and Michaela Maroney. Now, Nassar is also serving decades in prison after abusing members of the squad under the guise of medical treatment. Nassar admitted to sexually assaulting the athletes when he worked at Michigan State University and the USA Gymnastics, which obviously helps train future Olympians. He also admitted to possessing, that's right, images of young children. More than 100 women have sought over $1 billion from the federal government. Why, you would say? Nassar's the one that did it? Well, the FBI had tips that the good doctor was doing bad things to young women, and they ignored it. They didn't follow up on it. They figured, he's a doctor. Yeah, that's right. Government's being sued for $1 billion. Needless to say, the FBI had become aware of these allegations against him back in 2015, and he was arrested by the Michigan University Police in 2016, more than a year later. Michigan State, accused of missing chances over many years to stop Nassar, agreed to pay $500 million to more than 300 women and girls that he assaulted. The USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee made another $380 million settlement with women who had been assaulted by the good doctor. So let's think about the lessons learned here. First, anyone working around children, yes, they need greater scrutiny, not less. The FBI did nothing when these allegations came in because, well, he's a doctor. He's a good guy. He's practically volunteering. How dare you make an allegation against somebody of such stature in the community? Typical, usual stuff when it's discovered that this kind of stuff has been going on. Now, we don't know why he was stabbed. It could have been over a stupid jailhouse squabble, or it could have been because, well, he was a pedophile. The medical definition is somebody that likes prepubescent children. They're known in prison as pedos, chilimos, chomos, and whatever the prison slang is, they are at the bottom of that rung when it comes to the prison hierarchy. So we'll be interested to see here at Crime Talk what the nature of the fight was. Are there going to be charges? We'll have to wait and see. But, it's one of those things like, we're happy that Dr. Nassar is alive, but it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Just saying, ladies and gentlemen, be careful out there. Just because somebody has a position or stature in the community doesn't mean they can't do bad things. I was often asked at various points in life, why are you not excited about meeting somebody who is in government or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? They're just people. And I've represented too many people in high places that got away with doing bad things, sometimes to children, because of their position of authority. Oftentimes people seek out those positions so that they can be around the kids and not be questioned. All right, next on the docket. Yeah, this coach, not a good man either. A Tennessee soccer coach was arrested after he left his cell phone behind at a restaurant, and the workers tried to find out who the phone belonged to. And guess what? They found some very appalling videos of young boys who were drugged and sexually assaulted. Now, Camilo Hurtado Campos, who is described as a popular coach from the Franklin, Tennessee area, left his cell phone behind a local restaurant, and the customer retrieved the device and handed it over to staff. When the employees attempted to look through the phone to discover its owner, they uncovered the videos of unconscious young boys being abused, per the arrest affidavit. Now, during an immediate and quick investigation, the detectives found hundreds of these disturbing videos and pictures on the phone. In many of the videos and photos, Campos was recording himself being unconscious boys between the ages of 9 and 17 years old. Police found the video on the phone of the sexual abuse of at least 10 children. 2 of the victims have been identified thus far, and police are working to track down the rest. Probably kids on the soccer team. Just saying. Detectives said that the children appeared to be unconscious in the video and may not even realized that they were being victimized. Campos is being held on the charges of rape of a child and sexual exploitation of a minor, and more charges are expected to be filed as more victims are identified. Once again, a coach in a situation where he can be around kids. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. We've said this before. I'll say it again. Be careful of people that want to hang out with your kids, okay? Why are they doing it? Because that's where the kids are, right? Be careful. Check them out. Nice little plug there for CrimeTalkSearch.com, don't you think? Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Would have helped in this next case, a Walmart pervert, to say the least. A registered Georgia sex offender has been arrested because he allegedly went around Walmart taking pictures up skirts and then touching the buttocks of 2 minors. Yes, that's a crime. Now, the victims were 11 and 16 years old, and a relative said that at least one of them was touched in the toy aisle. That's right, Gary Moultrie. Why was he in the toy aisle? Because that's where the kids are. Well, he was chased by police around the superstore in Atlanta after he was recognized by staff, and they realized that's the guy that was doing the inappropriate things. And the chase finally ended when Moultrie was arrested in the garden center section. Now, the police body cam footage sees officers first encountering the store-owned security team as they paired up to take down the pervert, who continued to take photos up women's skirts. Moultrie lives in Decatur and has been on the Georgia Sex Offender Registry since May of 2020, and he was charged with sexual battery for his most recent incident. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, past performance is indicative of future results. Where was he? where the children are. Just saying. I'm telling you this from a criminal defense attorney's perspective. I would not intentionally give you bad advice. Like I tell my clients, I give you advice like I would give it to my children, and I wouldn't intentionally give you bad advice. Next on the docket, a house of horrors. Stephen Kittle was arrested in March on one count of child sexual abuse. In June, he was charged with 2 counts of child neglect. His wife, Lindsay, and his mother, Robin, were each arrested on 3 counts of child neglect. Now, body cam video has come to be released as it relates to the crimes that these individuals are associated with. Now, Kittle is arrested on the sexual assault charge, and the defendant's mouth gapes wide open when the officers explain why he's actually being handcuffed. It's kind of funny. Anyway, Stephen Kittle admitted during a subsequent interview to detectives that he, in fact, had sexually assaulted a 4-year-old girl while the 1-year-old boy watched. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There is evil in the world. And he did this on multiple occasions. Well, in January, body-worn camera footage documenting the residence inside the Stillwater, Oklahoma residence has come about, where 3 children were recently able to literally escape. Now, the affidavit describes it as, quote, the foul odor inside was unbearable. The air was thick and musty, which made breathing difficulty, and the police could not complete the walkthrough without taking breaks outside for fresh air. And they noticed there actually was carpet in the living room. It was saturated with so much urine and feces that as they walked on it, the boots actually stuck to the flooring. Now, the footage continues to show the inside of the trailer, and a cat scurries across the floor, a sheet is tacked to a wall, and household objects are piled up among the common rooms. And then the officer opens the door to the child's bedroom. The walls are smeared with feces. It's obvious the children smeared the feces because of the size of the handprints, and some of the smears reached up to the ceiling on the west wall. Police allege that the room was shared by a 4-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy. The video shows an officer at one point rushing out of the home, literally gagging due to the smell. Now, officers were originally investigating the child assault claim against Stephen Kittle, and the investigation led officers to the state child welfare agency to visit the family's trailer. There, authorities say they found 3 children, 3 adults, 6 dogs, and 3 cats living in this squalor. The children were taken into custody of the Oklahoma Department of Human Services, and apparently the children's social and verbal skills were lacking for their ages. The affidavit states that the 2 older children communicated by pointing and grunting. They still used pull-ups and were not potty trained due to no guidance and inconsistent access to the restroom. They showed signs of nutritional deficiencies and food scarcity. The youngest child had deformities in both legs, and a dead roach was removed from her ear canal. Stephen Kittle was detained on a $150,000 bond in the Payne County Jail. His preliminary hearing is set for August 31st. His wife and his mother are being detained on $30,000 each. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people live in a little bubble, and they think nothing bad ever happens out there in their little bubble. But the world is a dangerous place. Dangerous place. Sorry to have to break the news to some people out there, but it is an ugly, ugly world. Next, a little dating malpractice. 2 people have been arrested for the murder of Kirsten Williamson, an 18-year-old transgender resident of South Carolina who went missing last week during a date with a man that they met online. Now, the Union County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina received a report of Williamson's family on Sunday morning, prompting the investigation. Acting on a tip that Williamson might be located at a home in Monroe, North Carolina, the search began. Williamson has not been seen or heard from since Friday evening, and Williamson had engaged in online conversations with a man for approximately a month and had plans to meet in person for the first date. The officers further revealed that Joshua Newton allegedly visited the restaurant where Williamson was employed in Lawrence, South Carolina, and subsequently drove them back to his residence in Monroe, which was over 2 hours away. Then on Wednesday, the sheriff's office uncovered a body believed to be that of Williamson, located a few miles away from Newton's house. Police have not said how Williamson was killed. Now, we don't know any more facts than what we have right there. But I'm going to go on a limb here and say I think that Mr. Williamson didn't disclose to the other guy, Mr. Newton, well, that he was Mr. Newton, that he was Mr. Williamson. Had a very similar case like this where somebody was transitioning. They just didn't tell everybody until somebody touched somewhere, and then let's just say the assault began. Not a defense. Frankly, some would say it's not even mitigation that was the circumstances, that it was an aggravator because they called it a hate crime. I'll be curious to see how this case turns out. We'll just have to wait and see. And finally, today on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. Please meet Justin Savoy. Now, he pled guilty Friday to a weapons charge after the police, while they were arresting him late last year on a separate matter, discovered he had stashed a loaded .25 caliber Titan pistol in his buttocks. Now, police had taken Savoy into custody back in 2019 after they responded to suspicious activity in a home that he was occupying with a female acquaintance. Police said that they discovered Savoy possessed a handgun, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia during an initial search. Multiple other firearms were also later discovered in his truck. Here's where it gets good, ladies and gentlemen. As Savoy was being strip searched after his arrest and being put into jail, what did they find? Surprise! That's right, they found a weapon concealed in his buttocks. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the pistol, just to give a little perspective here, is 4 inches long and 2.5 inches wide in the barrel. Just think about that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know what to say. Anyway, Savoy was sentenced to 5 years for the crime, suspended prison sentence, which means he's basically put on probation. But if he screws up, he goes to prison. He also received 3 years probation and ordered to serve 90 days in the jail. Part of his probation, he is barred from owning or possessing a firearm. Good call. He can't visit bars or lounges or indulging in excessive use of alcohol or illegal drugs. I'm going to bet the alcohol and drugs led him to make that poor decision of putting a loaded firearm in his buttocks. Oh my gosh. Anyway, all right, that's all we have for today. Kind of a little bit of a dark show today. There was just a lot of dark, bad news out there, and, well, we bring it to you straight here at Crime Talk. We don't sugarcoat it. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.